Hi, I'm Mark Hoth and welcome to Swift Almanac. Now that we can authenticate and talk to our external databases, let's build the framework for our user interface. Our interface is going to be divided up into 6 views, a settings screen which will be a navbar item, and 5 functional screens for news, training courses, source code, projects and messaging. So those 5 functional views are going to make it ideal to use a tab bar controller to navigate amongst all 5 of those views. So let's show you how it's done. Okay, so I've previously done tutorials on building navigation controllers in code and tab bar controllers in code. So I'm just going to basically run through all the changes because it's pretty boring really just watching me type. So what we have done is I've changed the main view controller to be our info or settings page, which is what's going to be clicked on when we click on the cog. And then we've got 5 views: info, training, source, projects and messages. And you can see our messages icon is massive, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. So essentially I've given them all different colored backgrounds. There is 5 view controllers and each one implements a navbar with a title and the cog icon, and each background of each view is a different color. So that you can just see that things are visibly changing, so as we have no controls in there currently. So if we go to our extensions for App Delegate, where we've got our globals, the move to the main window is now moving to a tab bar controller. So we've created this custom tab bar controller, and we've set the tab bar to be to not be translucent, so you can't see through it, which is why it's white. If that was true, then this would be sort of a pink color because the red background would show up behind it. And then instead of setting the root view controller to being a view controller, we set it to being this tab bar controller. So if we look at our custom tab bar controller, at the start I'm creating 5 view controllers, 1 for each screen. If you're not familiar with tab bar controllers, then every window in the tab bar is created on instantiation of the tab bar controller, and they remain in memory as long as the tab bar controller remains in memory. So there's 2 things you need to do for every view controller that you create. You need to give it a title, and you need to supply an image. And as you can see, there's a title at the bottom and there's an image at the bottom. And then finally, there is the tab bar controller has a property called ViewControllers, which is an array of all of the view controllers. So I create a controller. I probably should have done something like that, so that we know that it is an array of view controllers, and then we just have this array which has all of the view controllers in it, and we assign it. Now, because I want a navigation bar on every view, what I've done is use this map function on my controllers array, and it's basically taking this value and passing it to UI navigation controller, and this view controller's parameter is the property of the tab bar controller. So essentially what this function is doing is iterating through the array and creating a navigation controller for each of these view controllers, and that's very similar, if not identical, to the process of if you're in the storyboard, of going in and embedding a view controller in a navigation controller. So that is showing us everything there. I did move our GitHub requests to this view did load, but we don't need them for the purpose of this. They were in what's become the settings view controller, and there's no point in having them there. So if we look at our assets, I've added a couple of images, and each of these images for the tab bar needs to have 3 sizes, and the sizes are 75 by 75, 50 by 50, and 25 by 25. And as you can see, messages has a much larger icon, and if you're like me and completely useless at Photoshop, there's a really simple way of resizing these images. So if you right click on an image and you go open with external editor, it brings up this preview, and then under tools you can select adjust size, and then you simply type in 75 for the largest icon, and it resizes it. And then for the 2 times, we open with an external editor, we go to tools, adjust size, 50/50, and finally open with an external editor, tools, adjust size, 25/25, and that has saved all of those, and we can run our application again. And there you go, our messages icon has been resized. So that's a really easy way to be resizing images if you need to and are not adept and skillful at Photoshop or other graphics programs, and I certainly do not claim to be any of those. Okay, so for each of these items, we'll look at the info one first. In the view do load, what we need to do is there's a navigation controller for each of these 5 views. So at the start or in the view did load for each of the views, we need to set the title, and again we want a white background. We don't want it to be translucent, so we need to set the navbar translucent, is it translucent, to false. And then we need to create this settings button. So we create a settings button with the UI bar button item. We have an image called settings, the plain style, self is the target, and then we create this action with the hash selector move to settings, and at the bottom we have to create this Objective-C function called move to settings, and that calls a global function move to settings window. So I put that global function in this app delegate area, and essentially move to settings window is basically just calling the settings view controller and sending us off there. Now the reason why, going back to the info, the reason why I didn't just type in move to settings window here is global variables can't be prepended with at Objective-C, so we need to have this method created for each of the windows to call this global function. So and then once we've got our bar button item, we need to place it, and so we're going to set it as the right bar button item, and finally we set the background color to the particular color for the view. So for info it's going to be .red, and then for training we do the exact same thing. It's just a cut and paste. We change the title, we create the settings button, and we create this move to settings function at the bottom, and we do that for all of the 5 windows, projects, messages, etc., and that gives us our application as you see it now. So we have our rudimentary interface. Some of those view controllers are going to be converted to tab or collection views in later tutorials, but you can see how we are navigating around our app and it's starting to take shape. Hopefully you've learned something. If you did, click like, and in any event, subscribe to the channel to see our fully functional app develop to the App Store. In the next lesson, we will be building our settings page and looking at the Stripe payment gateway. That's sure to be exciting. That's sure to be exciting. So we look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.